Firstly, your thoughts on the Prime Minister's comments last night that even if Australia does reach herd immunity, we're still going to see these lockdowns.
Well, look, I think the issue here is that we have to accept the fact that this is not an emergency per se anymore. This is a risk we're going to have to continually manage. I think it is quite likely that into the future we're going to see occasional lockdowns and we're going to have to learn to live with it. So I think this is possibly, a much needed dose of reality and the beginning of a different kind of conversation with the public.
Okay, so where does the conversation go to from here? Because you've been calling for clarity for some time, particularly from National Cabinet on a pathway forward. So what conversation needs to happen now?
Well, essentially, what we need is for National Cabinet to agree on what the terms of closure of the borders are so that they're all doing the same thing at the same time and using the same triggers so that there's a sense of certainty for both travellers and the businesses who are running that travel option. I think the other part of this puzzle is that there are still a range of things that need to be considered around the vaccination. So what does that look like? Does it matter what sort of vaccination you've had? If you've been fully vaccinated, do the border closures still apply to you, at least domestically? Are there restrictions that won't apply if you're fully vaccinated or not? I think there's a need for a wider conversation to give people a chance to understand what the future is going to look like. Now, we all know that things are changing pretty quickly and we all have to be that A word, agile now. But I do think that now is the time for the states to stop acting as separate principalities and come together.
Well, things are certainly changing, as you said. We've got parts of Greater Sydney in lockdown, Perth and the Peel region, parts of the Northern Territory, restrictions across the country. What's the cost of all of this to the tourism sector?
Well, look, it's very substantial. And I think what concerns me most is that a lot of decisions that were made about support for our industry were made in light of the fact that the rest of the economy seemed to be coming back. And there was an assumption that things would get better for us. Well, clearly, they're not going to be substantially better so long as this situation continues. So for this 2-week school holiday period, with the level of uncertainty we're now seeing nationally, tourism spend over that period will be down by $6 billion over that 2-week period. And in states like New South Wales, we're looking at $153 million a day being sliced out of the tourism consumption on what would be one of the busiest holidays of the year. I think the other part of this, Tanika, is for some reason, the outbreaks seem to almost be perfectly matched with the school holiday cycle.
Yeah, it's always at the worst time. $6 billion, Margy, that's a lot of money. Will there be some businesses now in the sector that are simply just going to have to walk away?
Yes, that's the short answer. This is an incredibly robust industry. We bounce back normally, but this is a difficult to bounce back situation when so many rules, for good reasons to do with health, are being made that will materially and in fact, to a much higher proportion than any other industry, will affect us, hospitality, the arts, those sorts of entities. So yes, there's going to be people who just put up the white flag now and say, too hard, I can't do this. Now, the big problem with that is it means we lose unique talent, unique offerings, and the things that make the tapestry of the tourism industry a reason for people to go places and see things.
The New South Wales government is set to announce a support package for businesses impacted by this 2-week lockdown. What would you like to see included in that?
Well, look, I think there's probably some immediate cash support mechanisms that need to apply for this 2-week period. But I'm going to be very frank, Tanika, it's going to take much longer than this 2 weeks. Really, what we need to be seeing is some attention to payroll tax holidays for the sector in particular. We need to see an attractions and experiences package to support those businesses, or they just won't be here when everybody suddenly decides that we can travel again. And there is an element of people suddenly deciding, because even once we're in a much better health situation, people's confidence to travel has been terribly crushed. And it is going to take some time to rebuild that.
Yeah, long road to recovery. Margy Osmond, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Danica.